It was a night during the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 that redefined belief, endurance, and the very meaning of individual brilliance in cricket. Under the lights at the iconic Wankhede Stadium, what began as a routine run chase slowly transformed into one of the most extraordinary sporting dramas ever witnessed. The contest between the Australia national cricket team and the Afghanistan national cricket team seemed, for most of the evening, to be heading toward a historic upset. Instead, it became the stage for an innings that would be remembered for generations, an unbeaten masterpiece by Maxwell. Australia were set a daunting target of 292, not impossible, but certainly challenging on a surface that was beginning to assist Afghanistan's disciplined bowling attack. Early in the chase, there was confidence in the Australian camp. Their batting lineup was experienced, powerful, and known for thriving under pressure. But cricket, as it often does, had other plans. The Afghan bowlers struck early, and then again, and then again. What looked like a competitive chase began to unravel at alarming speed. The Australian top order, expected to anchor the innings, fell in quick succession. Each wicket intensified the belief among Afghan players that they were on the verge of something monumental. The fielders celebrated with unrestrained passion, their energy echoing across the stadium. Every dot ball felt like a small victory, every appeal carried hope, and every breakthrough pushed Australia further into crisis. Soon, the scoreboard painted a grim picture, 91 for 7. For a World Cup match involving one of cricket's most successful nations, such a collapse was almost unthinkable. Commentators spoke in astonished tones about the possibility of one of the greatest upsets in tournament history. Fans wearing yellow sat in stunned silence, while Afghan supporters dared to dream of a victory that would echo far beyond the boundary ropes. Amid this chaos stood Maxwell, the last recognized batter, surveying the wreckage around him. At that stage, survival was the only priority. Maxwell began with caution, far removed from the explosive style that had earned him global fame. There were no audacious reverse sweeps or daring improvisations. Instead, he chose restraint. He watched the ball carefully, defended with soft hands, and tried to settle into a rhythm. Each run was earned through patience, not flair. With only Thailanders left, partnerships were fragile by nature. Maxwell understood that one mistake could end the chase entirely. So he recalibrated his mindset. Rather than trying to dominate immediately, he focused on occupying the crease. He nudged singles where possible, absorbed pressure, and attempted to slow Afghanistan's momentum. Yet time was not on his side. The required run rate crept upward. Dot balls mounted. Afghanistan tightened their field placements, cutting off easy scoring opportunities. The chase, already difficult, threatened to slip out of reach. Maxwell knew that simply defending would not win the match. A shift in intent was inevitable. Gradually, he began to counterattack. He identified bowlers to target, waited for anything marginally short or over-pitched, and punished those deliveries with precision. A pull shot pierced the leg side. A drive raced through extra cover. A calculated sweep disrupted the spinner's lengths. These were not reckless strokes. They were deliberate responses to specific situations. The change was subtle but significant. The Afghan players, who had been dictating terms, suddenly found themselves reacting. And then came the physical challenge that elevated the innings from remarkable to extraordinary. Maxwell began suffering from severe cramps. At first, it appeared manageable, a brief stretch, a pause between deliveries. But soon, it became clear that the pain was intense. He struggled to run. Every attempted sprint turned into a grimace. He bent over repeatedly, hands on knees, trying to regain control of his body. Medical staff rushed onto the field as the game paused. The sight was alarming. Here was Australia's last hope, barely able to move. Most batters in such circumstances would have retired hurt. Logic suggested preservation, leave the field, recover, and accept that the match was lost. But Maxwell chose defiance. He refused to walk off. He knew that if he left, the innings would collapse instantly. What followed was something cricket had rarely seen, a batter almost immobilized, yet determined to continue. Since running became nearly impossible, Maxwell devised a new plan. If he could not take singles, he would rely on boundaries. Planting himself at the crease, he minimized footwork and relied instead on exceptional hand-eye coordination. Timing replaced movement. Precision replaced athleticism. The transformation was astonishing. He began striking the ball with clean authority despite standing almost still. Pull shots sailed deep into the stands. Lofted drives cleared the infield effortlessly. Sweeps found gaps with uncanny accuracy. Afghanistan altered their tactics repeatedly, pace, spin, yorkers, slower balls, but Maxwell adapted each time. It was no longer just batting. It was problem-solving in real time. At the other end stood Pat Cummins, tasked with the unenviable role of supporting actor in a one-man epic. Cummins focused on survival, blocking deliveries, and ensuring Maxwell retained the strike as often as possible. Their partnership, though unconventional, became the backbone of the chase. It was built not on fluent rotation but on trust, awareness, and discipline. Maxwell shielded Cummins from exposure, carefully managing the strike. He farmed the bowling with remarkable intelligence, often refusing singles early in overs so he could control the scoring later. Every decision was calculated, every risk weighed against the match situation. Meanwhile, the physical pain intensified. Between deliveries, Maxwell could be seen wincing, stretching, even collapsing momentarily to relieve the cramps. Yet when the bowler began the run-up, he summoned focus from somewhere beyond exhaustion. The contrast was surreal. Agony between balls, brilliance at the moment of impact. The crowd sensed they were witnessing something far greater than a run chase. Initially partisan, the atmosphere transformed into collective awe. Spectators, regardless of allegiance, rose to applaud each boundary. The narrative had shifted from an Afghan triumph to a human story of resistance. The stadium buzzed not with celebration, but with disbelief at what Maxwell was achieving. His century arrived not with exuberance, but with quiet determination. There was no theatrical celebration, no elaborate gesture. Just a brief acknowledgement and a return to stance. The job was unfinished. Australia still needed runs, and Maxwell remained locked in the contest. As the innings progressed, Afghanistan's control began to slip. Their bowlers, so precise earlier, started missing lengths under pressure. Fielders hesitated. Captaincy decisions grew reactive rather than proactive. The psychological tide had turned. Maxwell sensed it. He expanded his stroke play, launching calculated assaults when opportunities arose. A thunderous pull shot over mid-wicket sent the crowd into rapture. A lofted straight drive, struck with minimal movement, showcased timing of the highest order. Even boundaries that appeared mistimed found gaps, as if fortune itself had aligned with his resolve. The required runs dwindled. What had once seemed an impossible equation now appeared attainable. Afghanistan, once on the verge of history, searched desperately for a breakthrough. Every appeal was louder. Every near miss carried anguish. But the wicket would not come. Maxwell's innings became a study in mental resilience. Despite physical limitations, his concentration never wavered. He read field placements instantly, anticipated bowling plans, and adjusted angle of attack. It was not brute force alone that carried him, it was clarity of thought under extreme stress. The closing stages were breathtaking. With Australia approaching the target, Maxwell unleashed a final surge. Boundaries came with increasing frequency. Each strike felt like a declaration that the impossible had become inevitable. The Afghan players, though valiant, could only watch as the match slipped away. And then, the moment arrived. A cleanly struck shot raced away, sealing victory. Australia had completed a chase that seemed lost beyond recovery. Maxwell, utterly drained, collapsed to the ground. Not in celebration, but in exhaustion. Teammates ran onto the field, embracing him as the magnitude of the achievement sank in. The crowd stood as one, applauding an innings that transcended rivalry. Statistically, it was monumental. Contextually, it was unparalleled. This was not merely about runs scored. It was about circumstances. A team in crisis, a batter battling physical breakdown, a World Cup stage amplifying every moment, and an unwavering refusal to surrender. Cricket has produced many great innings, centuries under pressure, heroic rearguards, dazzling displays of stroke play. But rarely has one performance combined skill, endurance, intelligence, and sheer willpower so dramatically. Maxwell's knock became more than a sporting achievement, it became a symbol. It reminded players and fans alike that matches are not decided solely by conditions, rankings, or probability. Sometimes, they are decided by belief, the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. That night in Mumbai illustrated why cricket captivates millions. It is not just a contest of bat and ball. It is a stage where character is revealed, where adversity sharpens greatness, and where moments of magic can redefine what seems possible. Maxwell did not simply guide a chase. He authored a story of resilience. A story that will be retold whenever discussions arise about comebacks, courage, and the extraordinary capacity of human determination. Long after scorecards fade and tournaments are forgotten, that innings will remain etched in cricket's collective memory, not just as one of the greatest ever played, but as a reminder that even when the body falters, belief can still carry the game forward. And that is why this was not just a victory. It was a masterpiece.